How's it going, everybody? So in this video, we're going to be talking about training and nutrition for general health, longevity, and fitness. Now, it's important to understand that fat loss will also come with this training and nutrition style because form, in my opinion, follows function. But at the same time, understand that this is not specifically designed for the fastest and most effective weight loss or fat loss possible, and it's more geared towards long-term sustainable health outcomes by utilizing sustainable exercise and nutrition changes in habits. Okay, so this is something that it basically aims to be effective at improving the major drivers of health and longevity in fitness, while also allowing the most amount of kind of fun and sustainability that someone can continue this in the long term without feeling too constricted or like the protocol is too extreme. Okay, but we're mostly going to focus on the science. All right. So let's start talking about training and exercise for longevity and fitness and health. Okay, and really let's determine health. Okay, so health and fitness. All right. So broadly speaking, combining the two definitions together, health and fitness. Okay, when we're talking about the general population who's not, as advanced and invested in all of these more advanced health science communities, like a lot of my channel's subscribers probably are. Most average people, when they are just trying to improve their health and their fitness, what we're looking for is, number one, developing enough fitness, enough cardiovascular capacity, and strength and endurance and resilience and robustness to be able to handle the demands of everyday life, whether that's playing with your kids or your grandkids, going on a trip, going on a long walk, going to like an amusement park, or going to a thrift store, or just walking up and down the stairs at your local, at your work, or at your local doctor's office, or whatever it may be, or even going to the grocery store. So like what a lot of people fail to realize, most human beings that aren't heavily invested into fitness and health, they have trouble even going to the grocery store without being out of breath or without it being this really gigantic event in their life. I've noticed this with relatives and also with clients before they started training and consulting with me. And also like a weekend at going shopping, for example. After the age of 40, people who haven't maintained their health and fitness over their lifetime, just walk around for an hour at a thrift store or at a grocery store or at an amusement park, especially if it's hot or if there's sun involved and they're sweating, people have a really hard time enduring that. And so building a general base of fitness is going to help these people to enjoy these aspects of life a lot better. So a lot of people don't realize such a basic and simple aspect of life is directly affected by your level of fitness. And so these things are directly impacted by your body's overall ability and capacity to withstand overall volume of work, okay? So if you think about going to the grocery store for an hour, or going to the shopping mall, going to Disney World, or whatever it is, going on vacation and walking around on the streets of a new city you've never been to and exploring the beach or whatever, the way that you improve that through fitness training is any kind of exercise, whether it is just vigorously walking for an hour without stopping, which when people are first starting, that's a gigantic kind of task. Or resistance training, lifting weights and doing cable exercises and body weight exercises combined with a little bit of cardio, and even certain mobility and stretching exercises for a lot of people. I have one I call Coach's Wolfgang's Special Warm-Up, where it's basically you start by touching your toes, and then you walk yourself forward into a downward facing dog yoga pose, and then you move your hips down to the ground into what we know as a cobra pose, and then back, and you repeat that for 10 repetitions or more. That in and of itself is going to improve aerobic capacity, and for a lot of people, they're out of breath after 5 reps of that, even though for me it's a basic stretch that doesn't really get me winded at all. And so sustaining any type of elevated heart rate, even if you take breaks in between, your heart is still beating and developing the aerobic system in order to recover in between weight sessions. People don't know that. Weight training, even if it's 1 minute of work with 2 minutes rest, during that 2-minute rest interval in between lifting weights, your heart is elevated and working to maintain aerobic capacity. So any kind of, exercise modality that's moderate in intensity that lasts about 1 to 2 hours in total time is going to dramatically improve aerobic capacity and work capacity, just overall in general, without even needing to do running or anything like that or walking. So weight training is the foundation for any and all, pretty much all goals, unless you're specifically trying to run in a marathon or something like that, something very specific. Whether it's fat loss, improving health, improving fitness, even improving your conditioning for something like jiu-jitsu, that's literally the primary means that I personally use, along with things like burpees and plyometrics and circuits and things, depending on the athlete and the person and where they are in their training period, in their phase. But you can make weight training specific to pretty much any goal. So in regards to health and fitness, aerobic capacity is key. And fitness is basically your capability and capacity to sustain work and the demands required for your own lifestyle, whatever that is. If you're a firefighter, or if you are a gardener or a construction worker, you're going to really need a high work capacity and general level of fitness. Otherwise, you're going to be exhausted every single day during work. The exhaustion you feel after work is part mental burnout, and it's part just too much work for your current level of ability. So through exercise and training for fitness and health, what we're trying to do is improve our work capacity to where we don't feel exhausted at the end of a really hard manual labor day. Even something like mowing the lawn. Mowing your lawn is going to be a work capacity thing, or running errands throughout the day. I've known some family members and people who have to take a long ass nap after just going and running some errands. It wears them out. And so general fitness training, that's the main aim. Okay. And so health is a little bit different. So health, and it's important we define that. The USDA has specifically refused to define the word health, because if health is defined, then a lot of these companies that are funding these agencies are not going to be able to list their products as healthy or heart healthy, because now they have to abide by that certain definition, and which would not please all subsidies and funding sources and food companies that fund these things. So, but I'll give you a definition, okay? So health is, number one, the absence of disease, or being as absent of disease as you possibly can, while also sustaining a general aura of energy and zest for life, okay? So that would be wellness, actually, energy and zest for life. But health is being as close to the absence of disease as you possibly can. So some people might have genetic issues that are incredibly challenging to resolve using nutrition and exercise. But a lot of these things can be resolved through nutrition. It's just that it's very kind of esoteric knowledge that you won't find from your general medical practitioner, because they don't have enough time to actually research nutrition. All of their time is spent in the clinic dealing with patients and things, and any free time they have, they're probably exhausted and burnt out from their heavily demanding job. So they don't really spend a lot of time researching, health science, especially if they assume they've learned everything that they need to learn from medical school, which is fine. So cut doctors some slack. But regardless, a lot of issues like autoimmune issues, fibromyalgia, multiple sclerosis, lupus, Crohn's disease, colitis, irritable bowel syndrome, psoriasis, even rheumatoid arthritis. All of these things tend to have a root cause that's rooted in nutrition. So I'm just throwing that out there. For more information, I have other specific videos talking about that, and there's a lot of good books on the subject. Just know that you're probably not as disempowered as some people might tell you. If you there's likely a way for you to overcome your issue. And so anyway, the point is though, that's, health is basically the absence of disease, or the closest that you can get to the absence of disease. So, when we're talking about exercise for health, okay, we're talking about exercise to help resolve disease and prevent chronic disease, almost like preventive medicine. And so the major things that we want to look at, okay, that are the most obvious and easy to kind of remedy, that most experts would agree on and doctors would be really happy for, are going to be things like using nutrition and exercise to balance out your blood sugar levels and optimize insulin sensitivity. So insulin sensitivity, hemoglobin A1C, and fasting insulin, these are primary proxies or blood tests that you can use that contribute or are interrelated with heart disease, diabetes, as well as hyperlipidemia, high triglycerides, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and the list goes on. And I personally would even say things like a lot of different types of cancer. Not all of them, but a lot of them. I believe they're rooted in your insulin sensitivity and your glucose metabolism. And so these are things that we can directly modify using exercise, specifically resistance training and high-intensity interval training. So we know that improving muscle mass improves insulin sensitivity dramatically, because the more muscle mass you have, the more of a demand for glycogen is going to be put into place. And the more demand for glycogen, the more carbohydrates and high insulinogenic foods are going to be able to be tolerated, because they'll just be shuttled into the muscle. The muscles you can think of as a storehouse for glycogen and carbohydrate. So the bigger your muscles are, the greater your capacity to store carbohydrates without them overflowing into the bloodstream and turning into high blood triglycerides and high blood glucose, as well as glycogen spilling over in the liver, eventually turning into liver fat, which is the main contributor to fatty liver disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So more muscle is the first thing that dramatically improves your glucose metabolism, insulin sensitivity, and how much high glycemic load foods you can consume in your diet. The next thing is the fact that by doing resistance training, meaning lifting weights, as long as you're training close enough to failure and you're keeping your heart rate relatively elevated for a decent amount of time, you're going to be eliciting a high demand for glucose within the training session. So not only do you increase insulin sensitivity or improve insulin sensitivity and glucose metabolism by the long-term effects of building more muscle, but also by the short-term effects and benefits of a higher intensity cardiovascular response from the anaerobic conditioning effect of resistance exercise that is close enough proximity to failure to elicit such a response. And so if you've ever lifted weights with a slow eccentric, like my clients do, and then you have static holds in between, let's say a chest press, right? I'm pushing, and then I'm holding at the end for 3 seconds, and then my arms are getting a little shaky with the static hold, and then slow eccentric. Man, it is so hard to maintain that muscular control. And I'm increasing the time under tension where we're doing a set of 10, but we're doing it with 3-second pause at the top, 3 to 5 second eccentric. If you can hold, the longer you can, the better. And then another 3-second hold at the bottom of a chest press. And this hold right here sucks on a chest press. 3-second hold here. And then controlled but explosive concentric. 3-second hold. Slow on the way down. Another 3-second hold. I don't even have any weight right now, but my arm's getting kind of tired. This almost always, without fail, gets people to start sweating. They're breathing really hard. Their face is turning red. And the thing is, we're increasing the intensity of the weight training without even needing to lift really heavy weights because everything is very controlled. It's a 3-second pause at the top, 3 to 5 seconds on the way down, 3-second pause, and then boom. It's extremely controlled using lighter weights than if they were to just go fast and bottle rocket it and just do mindless reps. You're increasing the concentration on the muscle tissue itself, so you're not only increasing the integrity of your form on each exercise, you're increasing the time under tension, which means more muscle growth and hypertrophy overall, more muscle gain. Also, more calories are burnt, more cardiovascular output is being put, more blood is being pumped to the muscle, more oxygen is being consumed due to the longer duration of each rep. It is a more intense, a more stimulative, a safer, and just a more bang for your buck approach to resistance training that is not just building muscle, it's also building mind-muscle connection, it's building good habits of form and whatnot, and it's giving you a cardiovascular response that improves your heart health, improves your glucose metabolism, and you're getting not just an anaerobic cardiovascular conditioning effect, you're getting a muscle conditioning effect, a muscle endurance effect, a muscle building effect, and overall, throughout that entire session, they are feeling like if all the sets and reps on most of the resistance training and most of the exercises are done that way, especially if you do antagonist supersets where you do a chest press followed by a row. I like to do it on a cable machine because you can kind of just stay at the same machine and not worry about people stealing it. And then you do shorter rest periods, like maybe 1 minute of rest where you can kind of talk to I'm thinking in client terms, talk to the client or whatever. That session is going to give you a cardiovascular effect that is so much more effective and has so many more benefits than if you're just go and run. And so you get fat loss and mostly calorie burn and a glucose demand effect, while at the same time building muscle and improving form. And those people are probably going to also have that feeling of flow or mindfulness because all of their attention cannot be on their problems and stuff. It's all on the muscle. It has like a benefit to your psychology and emotional health as well. So that is kind of like the way to do resistance training. And that's just a basic technique itself. Just changing the tempo and using isometric holds in between, static holds, is key. And so that's just for glucose metabolism, right? But also the fat loss effect and things that's explained. Other things as far as health is concerned and prevention of disease. So a lot of people, they don't understand. So heavy weight training is very important. So typically the resistance training that I'm talking about with the slow eccentrics and stuff, you want to do in the rep range of 6 to around 15 reps at the very most, but typically around 6 to 12 reps for multiple sets, okay, is best for that approach. However, there's another aspect to this that people don't think about, and not all clients are going to be able to do this, but bone mineral density. So past the age of 65, the leading cause of death is actually traumatic hip fractures, traumatic falls and bone breaks, and then being put into the hospital. The side effects that typically happen from the result of bed rest and being hospitalized. Things like pneumonia, things like edema, and a wide variety of other health problems happen when elderly people past the age of 65, according to the research, have hip fractures. And another thing is, past the age of 65, the leading correlative factor for longevity, for reaching the age of 80 to 90 years old, is actually grip strength, it's muscle tone, and it's bone mineral density, and the amount of muscle you're holding on your frame. That's one of the leading proxies and the highest correlating factor for longevity past the age of 80, actually. And then there's other things too. I mean, there is data showing people past the age of 90 typically have higher LDL than their peers, but I don't want to talk too much about that. So anyway, what are the main ways that we can fortify the muscle gain, the bone mineral density, and the grip strength that is so highly correlated with longevity past the age of 65 and preventing the bone fractures and the other problems that these adults have? Well, it happens to be the same training methods that also make our body more sensitive to insulin, that make our body more metabolically healthy. And the best training methods for improving fat loss are similar to the ones to keep staying healthy as you get older. So first of all, in the research, okay, the best and most effective method shown to improving bone mineral density and strengthen the connective tissues. So a lot of people, they think squatting heavy weights is bad for the knees. It's actually the opposite. Okay? What's bad for the knees is if you're maxing out all the time or if you're training too close to failure. Proximity to failure is both the cause of adaptation and strength gains, and also the factor involved in preventing injury. As long as you are training reasonably far away from failure but close enough to failure to elicit the adaptive response, you are going to be perfectly safe and experience stronger knees, stronger elbows, stronger shoulders, and stronger bones as diagnosed via DEXA scan, bone mineral density testing. So, in the research, okay, 5 sets of 5 at an intensity of over 80% of your 1 rep max. Okay? This is an example of a tested training program that has been shown to improve bone mineral density at a significant and noticeable rate. Okay? The key with bone mineral density is training above 80% of 1 rep max. And the problem is if you're doing something like, and this is things like back squats, okay, have been shown to do such a thing, as well as deadlifts and overhead military presses, and then dumbbell and or bench presses. Now, if you're doing lunges and split leg squats, okay, hypothetically, as long as you're training heavy enough, these modalities are probably amazing, especially because you can get a deeper range of motion and knees over toes, which is important for knee health. Unless you're a gimmick trainer who believes in stupidity and fragility, like Stuart McGill, no offense. Hypothetically, loading split squats, Bulgarian split squats, and lunges could probably do the case too. You could use dumbbells and stuff like that, as well as dumbbell step-ups and things. But I'll tell you this, okay? One thing that is for sure, and this is definitely backed by the research, is doing something that is in that direction of scientific principles of training is better than doing nothing, or is better than doing some gimmick training that isn't even in the same direction. So for example, let's say that you were doing heavy dumbbell squats, but they're squats with a dumbbell, and you're doing sets of 20 to 30 instead of doing 5 sets of 5 over 80% of your bone rep max with a barbell, like the research suggests is best, okay? But let's just say hypothetically you were choosing to do heavy dumbbell goblet squats with for 30 reps, okay? Well, that's not scientifically proven per se, but you are building muscle and putting those joints under stress using a squat movement pattern, which is great, and it's free weights. And you get a lot of variety of benefits with that. But let's say let's say you have a friend who chose to do yoga instead. Okay, and I think yoga is great for range of motion and mobility and stuff. But this person doesn't do any weight training at all, and they think that their yoga is going to provide them with improved bone health and joint health and all this other stuff. Well, yoga is better than doing nothing. But that strength training is far more likely that, even though it's a dumbbells goblet squat for sets of 30, okay, it's not necessarily a scientifically proven method. It hasn't been shown to provide significant improvements in bone mineral density, specifically the way that the 5 sets of 5 at 80% of your bone max on barbell squats has. However, it's way, way better and more likely to provide the benefits that you're looking for than if you were to do yoga like your friend. Now, ideally, you would do barbell back squats with 5 sets of 5, as close to that 80% range as you can. Maybe do some goblet squats as an accessory. And then you could do some yoga on the side. That's that's like the best thing you can fucking do. I'm not saying any of these things are good or bad. But what I'm telling you is there are specific things that provide those benefits for bone mineral density and the improvements in cartilage, specifically collagen resynthesis at the level of the joint. And those are things that, as a health professional or a fitness professional, we should be focusing on. And so anyway, training for health, longevity, and fitness, we want to be improving bone mineral density with strength training exercises that are heavy enough to elicit that response, but also not too heavy or too complicated of a movement pattern that your client is not able to perform it with good form and control. And obviously, if your client is not at a level adequate enough to do a barbell squat at 80% of your 1 rep max or whatever, clearly that the benefits, like the negatives, are far outweigh the positives, meaning it's just not worth it in that client's case or in that person's case or whatever. However, the goal should be to progressively improve the person's level of fitness and their form and their athletic ability to where eventually they are able to do a barbell squat with 80% of their 1 rep max, and they're able to do the protocols that have been scientifically verified to get them the results that they're paying for. Just because a client thinks that your workout is cool or whatever, it doesn't mean that that's what you should do. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. You should be using integrity and giving people the things that are effective. And so anyway, that's what, these things I'm talking about are aimed to do. Anyway, so we have what we call metabolic resistance training, which is not a scientific term. That was by Kozlow et al., detailed in the book Successful Programming for Busy Fitness Professionals or something like that. Great book. And basically, metabolic resistance training is what we were describing earlier. So that's a 6 to 12 using cables, dumbbells, barbells, and body weight movements. 6 to 12 reps, 3 to 5 sets using slow tempos and isometric contractions. That should stimulate bone growth and joint health, and also all the other things we mentioned earlier. And then on things like, you should probably start your training session with something like a squat, a press, a hinge, and some kind of pull movement that you're able to lift with that five, that heavy sets of five, hovering around 80% of 1 rep max. Find something really simple that they can overload without getting injured, but still hit that intensity range that gives them the adaptations for improving bone health. There's really no safety risk involved as long as you, as a professional, have enough experience and knowledge to tweak the exercise and use a variation that is safe for their current level of fitness. And I teach all of my clients on day one how to deadlift with a bar and some kind of pull. Like I would do deadlifts from the ground. We don't go heavy, but I teach them proper form. That's on day one. Every person, almost every person. Very, very rarely do we not. And their form looks perfect after day one, usually. And then some kind of press, like overhead press, and some kind of row. So yeah, and then after that you do the metabolic resistance training. So then after we have metabolic resistance training, sets of 6 to 12 that are mostly for the glucose and the fat loss and the muscle building and everything else. Then we have the bone mineral density improvements from the heavy sets of 5 at 80% 1 rep max or higher using functional movement patterns. And that's going to prevent injury and improve their bone health over time. And then you also have energy systems training. So this is the next part of training for general health and wellness and fitness. Aerobic capacity is going to be improved by just training for an hour every day using resistance training and these other things. But within a training session, you can do 10 to 20 minutes of high-intensity interval training using things like medicine ball slams, whether that's against the wall, on a ground, or overhead. You can do prowler pushes. I love prowler pushes. I do prowler pushes and prowler drags, and I teach most of my clients that. A lot of them on day one. Also, think different types of burpees. You do burpees into kettlebell swings. You can do devil's presses, which are burpees with a dumbbell, into a dumbbell snatch. Also, sometimes I'll do things like dumbbell thrusters with a light weight. Now, this also will cause a hypertrophy and burning effect in the quads, as well as the shoulders and triceps and arms. So you have to be mindful of all the other exercises you did that day. It has to make sense. Don't just do it to get them tired. But yeah, dumbbell thrusters is an amazing thing you can do in a circuit towards the end of a training session. You could do dumbbell burpee to dumbbell thruster, or dumbbell burpee to devil's press to thruster, or dumbbell burpee to reverse lunge to thruster to devil's press, or something. You do a lot of circuits and complexes and things that really work these people's anaerobic conditioning and improve their cardiovascular fitness. Like high intensity interval training has been shown in the literature to have dramatic clinically significant benefits on glucose metabolism, hemoglobin A1C, lowering triglycerides, and also high intensity interval training. 10 to 20 minutes of high intensity interval training done in circuits or whatever has been shown to improve long steady state aerobic fitness as well. So high intensity interval training, you get the best of both worlds. You get aerobic capacity and you get anaerobic threshold training as well. Anaerobic conditioning, lactic capacity, your body's ability to utilize and buffer out lactate, which is not necessarily the cause of soreness per se. We don't know what causes soreness, believe it or not. Anyway, so putting high intensity interval training at the end of a metabolic resistance training workout, and sometimes doing heavy sets of 5 if the athletic ability is able to, is this modality. And really the structure would be starting off with some dynamic mobility exercises, mostly dynamic stretching, dynamic core exercises. So things like planks and plank variation, shoulder taps. Some people like bird dogs and dead bugs. I'm not a huge fan of those. And there's a lot of other things you can do too. Different types of hip openers and things. Like, not only do these improve your mobility, but they get the blood flowing and they kind of activate the nervous system to get ready for exercise. It could be a placebo, maybe. It's not really proven by the literature that that's what it does, but it doesn't really matter. Improving flexibility and mobility is important anyway, so getting that at the beginning of a training session is not a bad idea. There's a lot of people that are into strength training that just completely avoid stretching, and I just don't think that's necessarily important. I've hit plenty of PRs after vigorous static stretching, so the idea that stretching limits force production is kind of silly in my opinion. But anyway, yeah, starting off with static stretching, dynamic mobility movement, and then maybe some core activation training. But only doing that maybe 5 to 10 minutes. You don't need it to be too long. The thing is, if they're isometric core exercises, the big benefit you get from that is a anaerobic conditioning effect. Just like with isometric holds, when you hold yourself in a plank position or a shoulder tap position, you're getting a local muscular conditioning effect. Static holds, especially single arm or isometric holds, are very fatiguing. You will feel a cardiovascular spike when doing these things. So they help to improve a conditioning effect while potentially improving your so-called core stabilization, which is a very nuanced topic. It's just a good thing to kind of have, like in the first 5 minutes or so. But what's important is not spending too much time on that and not putting too much weight on those exercises being so important. A lot of people, they think the key to health, fitness, and longevity is doing a bunch of yoga and a bunch of core exercises, when in reality you're not doing much of jack shit. And so keeping that to a minimum, but having that as a warm-up is a good idea. Putting them in circuits and things to improve not just your core stability and your mobility, but your anaerobic and lactic capacity as well is a good idea. Just improve overall fitness and conditioning at the beginning of a workout and to warm yourself up. Then you're moving on. You start off with maybe body weight squats to warm up for barbell squats. Then you start the barbell squat. You do work up to a heavy set of 5 at around an RPE, maybe 7 to 8, right? Maybe an RPE 8, and then do 3 to 5 sets of 5 at RPE 8, or with that weight. The last 2 sets of that should look pretty intense and challenging. So now you just got your bone strengthening effect from those sets of 5 at a relatively challenging but safe RPE range. Then move on to the metabolic resistance training, and that's going to look like, it depends on if you're doing lower body or if you're doing full body. Let's say it's full body. You can do cable rows, sets of 6 to 12, sets of 12 with a weight that you can maybe get 2 to 4 reps with. Do for about 10 reps, you're doing a row, so controlled but eccentric, that's relatively explosive and controlled at the same time. 3-second hold, 1, 2, 3, then let that row kind of come up, 3, 2, 1, then boom, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, boom, and then do that for 10 reps for 3 sets, and then the last set, do it to failure. Because if you do the last rep to failure, after several straight sets, now you have already kind of potentiated the form, so it's going to be safer and more controlled and have better form and contraction for that last set. The closer you go to failure, the more muscle growth is inflicted, and the more muscle, and also the more intense it will be. And that means you know for a fact, if you've gone to failure, you've gotten more than enough, you got enough work in for that muscle for that day. And so you get the metabolic effects, you get the blood sugar lowering effects, you get the improvements in blood glucose metabolism, you get all of these effects. And then you do, a push, a pull, a squat, a hinge, and then after you're done with that, and you do it in the same metabolic resistance training rep ranges and stuff, then you can do energy systems training. And that's going to be, again, so then let's just give a hypothetical. We will do burpee. We'll do let's say as many burpees as you can in 1 minute, and then you do as many medicine ball slams as you can in 1 minute, and then you'll have a 1 minute rest, and you repeat that for 3 rounds, let's say. So that's a total of 9 to 10 minutes. And then after that's over, you can do, let's say, a prowler push with a drag back. So you do prowler push for, I don't know, 20, well, let's say 200 meters, and then you drag it back 200 meters, okay? And you push the prowler 200 meters, then drag it 200 meters. And then give yourself 1 minute rest and repeat. And that's going to give you a lactic capacity and an anaerobic conditioning effect. It's going to improve your post-exercise oxygen consumption, EPOC or whatever, which is going to improve your caloric burn. It's going to improve your demand for glucose. And all of these things are improving your overall fitness, your overall ability to handle the demands of life. It's improving your caloric burn, your fat loss, all of these things. It's improving your function in daily life, reducing your risk of injury. It's improving your bone mineral density, lowering your hemoglobin A1C on a blood test. You're improving your HDL cholesterol, which is supposedly good cholesterol. And you're getting all of the things that doctors should really be concerned about. Good doctors would be. If you have diabetes, you won't have it very much longer. If you have high blood pressure, you won't have it very much longer. If you have high triglycerides or high fatty liver disease, all these things will be gone with this approach to training over time. And to some people, to the untrained eye, this may look like meathead football training or something. It might look like bodybuilding training. But the reality is this is a scientifically verified way of training to improve people's metabolic health, their longevity, prevent injury, make them have an easier time doing what they normally would do in life, to where they're not exhausted from just going to their child's school meetings or whatever. People fail to realize how important conditioning and fitness training really is, and that's how it transfers. It adapts your body to be able to handle greater amounts of physical activity, which you don't realize it, but you utilize all the time. This is why when you go on trips and things, you're always tired. You go to grocery stores, you're tired, whatever. You can't even walk your dog out in the sun without being tired. You got to become stronger in this way. So now let's talk about nutrition for health and fitness and longevity too, okay? So first of all, adequate protein is the foundation, and these are evidence-based principles. I'm going to go over what they are rather than try to justify them because I don't have a lot of time. So first of all, adequate protein. That means 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. So if you're currently a 200-pound female and your ideal body weight is to get down to 130 pounds, you want to be eating 130 pounds of protein per day. 130 grams of protein per day. 130 grams of protein per day, okay? And I prefer you get that from whole animal source protein. The reason why I recommend whole animal foods, meaning meat, eggs, and cheese if you prefer and can tolerate it, The reason why is because you get a lot of micronutrition from whole animal foods. You get all the amino acids required for the production of glutathione and superoxide dismutase, which is your body's endogenous antioxidant systems. Primary antioxidants, literally no antioxidants from your diet are going, or supplements are going to provide what whole animal foods can give you. Also, things like magnesium, potassium, iron, copper, all of these things are going to be provided from animal foods. Potassium and magnesium, you get plenty if you eat enough. And most people don't eat enough animal foods because they're scared, because the wrong people who don't know how to be healthy are telling you not to do it. The other thing is eating whole animal foods are going to really make it hard for, like, your appetite's going to go down if you eat that much protein from meat. The other thing is, so basically you basically give your body as much nutrient, like all the nutrients it needs to survive without nutrient deficiencies. So I don't want to go into detail, but just understand that if you get enough protein from whole animal sources, 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight, you are going to be getting all of the micronutrients that you need to survive for decades, okay? And so it eliminates the fear that some people get. Oh, I need to get all these vitamins and minerals that my favorite supplement guru is telling me to get. You don't need supplements or vitamins or anything like that, or any of that, any supplements, unless your doctor tells you that you have a deficiency. Okay, so then the next thing, and the next thing, and it's going to improve your appetite to where you're not hungry for snacks anymore, because it improves glucagon and hunger hormones. The other thing is protein directly helps to regulate the glucose and glycemic response through the hormone glucagon, and also it burns 3 times the calories of other macronutrients. So you're burning 3 times calories from metabolizing protein. You're also directly giving your body the amino acids needed for neurotransmitters in your brain, giving your body the building blocks of muscle tissue and your joints. The collagen in your joints are created from these amino acids in the animal protein. And if you can, taking a powder, any plain powdered collagen or gelatin supplement would do, will give you the building blocks to your connective tissue as well. The next thing is you get selenium and other antioxidants from animal proteins as well. But if you have trouble eating enough protein, then sure, supplements are okay, but preferably whole animal proteins. There's a lot of other reasons why. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you're really interested, and leave me a comment, ask me to make a video on it if you haven't yet kind of educated yourself on that topic. The next thing is carbohydrate sources. So, no. Removing all refined sugars, removing refined oils, specifically vegetable oils, so things like soybean oil, canola oil. The main fats that you want to eat, if you're going to eat them, are going to be butter, it's going to be olive oil, it's going to be avocados and avocado oil, and animal fats, tallow, lard, but it can't be vegetable lard, and it can't be hydrogenated lard. You've got to pay close attention to the ingredients list. But really, for most people, the best thing you can do is not consume added fats anyway. A lot of people tell you that you need to consume added fats and have all these reasons why. If you're trying to aim to be healthy, improve your fitness and longevity, and you're not really interested in being super obsessed about it, just remove as much added fats in your diet as you can, okay? And when in doubt, like, bake it, cook it, boil it, or fry it in its natural fats. Don't, add a bunch of oils and fats and stuff like that. You don't really need it, especially if you're overweight. The other thing, carbohydrates, okay? Stick to mostly fruits and then tubers. Fruits, tubers, and then if you're going to eat grains, whole grains, specifically black rice, purple rice, and red rice, or forbidden rice and wild rice. Traditional kind of brown rice that you can find in stores. It's really cheap, but a lot of issues with it that I want to go into detail in this video. Then there's beans, legumes, nuts, and seeds. Those are high in fiber, very low in glycemic load, and they potentially could contribute quite a bit of magnesium and potassium. Now, the thing I'll say about that is, so look, for average people looking to improve their health and fitness, the best thing you can do is avoid refined foods and stick to mostly whole animal proteins, and then supplement your diet with things like beans and nuts and seeds and whatever else you want on top of that. Most people at a fundamental level, their main problem is they undereat animal protein and protein in general, and they overeat refined foods. So if you can flip that kind of dynamic on its head and eat mostly whole animal foods, the rest is kind of easy from there, you know? Removing refined foods and added fats and unnecessary carbs, and then whatever carbs you do eat and fats you do eat are from whole food sources, and then you're basing your diet on whole animal proteins. It's almost inevitable that you're going to be dramatically healthier, feel better, lose body fat without even trying, and improve your longevity and fitness and robustness and energy and capacity to fulfill the demands of life way better than anyone else. Only other thing I'll say is you should probably look into supplementing with about 2 to 4 grams of sodium per day from Himalayan sea salt and or Celtic or Redmond's real salt. I have other videos going into detail on that, but when you switch to a whole foods diet, it's very easy to start to undereat sodium, and sodium is a very essential nutrient, especially if you're exercising and sweating, where I've found clients and just people in general tend to develop muscle cramps, dizziness, and even get symptoms of nausea and general malaise and low energy and sickness like they have the flu. And that's from undereating sodium and also dramatically lowering their insulin levels, which causes their kidneys to stop retaining water, because that's actually the main cause of high blood pressure, is high insulin causing kidneys to retain sodium and water fluids. And so when you lower your insulin from just a healthy whole foods diet based on protein, even if you're eating whole grains and whole carb sources, you start to get a point where you're drinking too much water and not retaining it, and so you need to up your salt intake. And so there's a lot of other things to think about in regards to nutrition for health, but those are the basic ones, health and fitness. If you have an intolerance, so like a autoimmune condition or a digestive disease, all I'm going to say is I recommend you read the book, The Fiber Menace. And then Sally Norden released a book called about superfoods. So maybe you could look into that, but I haven't read it yet, so I can't advocate it. Actually, you should probably read the book Nourishing Diets by Sally Fallon, because it goes into detail about how humans before industrialization, we used to spend a lot of time preparing these whole grains and whole food carbohydrate sources from plants. Okay, so if you're going to eat those foods, just understand kind of like the nuances of it. And yeah, so that's all I'm going to say. So if you've enjoyed this video, let me know down below what you've learned. This has been mostly how to train for general fitness and health, but also basic nutrition principles to follow. And if you have any specific questions and want me to go into detail on something deeper, let me know in the comments and request of me record a video on it, and I'll be happy to do so. And I'll talk to y'all next time.